Hi, I'm Zelian Turner, the Director of School Communications here at PALCS. This is Winging It. Today with me, I'm sitting with Jessica Kirk, one of our elementary school counselors. Hi, Jessica.
Hello.
And this is Winging It.
So when I was in college and I was trying to figure out, like, what am I doing with the psychology degree? Because it's very general, again. So it's like, what are your options? I saw school counseling and I was like, oh, that I would totally love to be a school counselor. I love school. I love kids. Like, I've just always had a natural, like, knack for play and connection. I was the oldest, so, like, I was also in charge. So there's a little bit of that, like, leadership part of it too. So it felt like it blended everything together. I'm like, I like to help people. I like school. How about I marry these and make it a profession? Being a child is very magical, and it's very short too. So a big part of that is remembering where their brain development is. So one of the things that I always say to myself, I even tell my kids this because I think it's helpful for them to know. I will say, your brain has a long way to go before it's developed. Like, it's nowhere near there yet. So there's going to be certain things that you're going to need an adult's help for, because my brain is, and I should know better. So I'm going to help you until your brain is fully developed. So a lot of the conversations with kids is just meeting them where they're at. And part of that is knowing developmentally where are they at. Can they reason? Are they abstract learners? Are they super concrete? Like, I'm K-2. They are concrete learners.
Okay.
Right?
What does that mean?
So they need things very black and white. They need things laid out. Abstract is when you can think about some more of those, like, intellectual conversations, asking why, digging a little deeper. And K-2 can totally do that, but they need the foundation. So you're giving them basically, like, the road for them to walk on for the rest of their life when it comes to emotional intelligence, awareness, identification, even knowing their bodies, right? That's, like, a huge component of it. So it really is like, you are not rationalizing with them in the ways that you and I would. We have to rationalize on their level. And that means understanding what's happening in their brain at that age.
It's almost like you're bringing a dictionary, a thesaurus, and an almanac to every conversation.
Yes. Yes. It's a lot of psychoeducation. So that's what we call it. When you're giving the information, so things evolve as they get older, where, like, your school counselors are always doing psychoeducation, but you might go into some, like, different modalities of helping them. But at the root of it is psychoeducation. Learning your body, learning all the things that you even feel in your body. I mean, think about adults who might not understand what's happening in their body, how painful that can be, how scary it can be. So for a little kid to know, like, oh, when your stomach maybe hurts, or, like, you have the butterflies, like, that's such a normal thing to happen because maybe you're feeling nervous or you're excited. And then it helps reduce some of those symptoms so it feels less palpable as they age. Or when it comes on, it doesn't feel as scary as it did without having the identification for it.
Let's start at the beginning with what is social emotional learning?
Yeah.
And how can it help students and families?
Yeah. So social emotional learning kind of goes back to that psychoeducation. It's learning about your emotions.
Okay, because psychoeducation, it's not scary, but it does not sound approachable.
Yes. It's not something that we use and showcase. So, like, parents and students will never hear us saying, like, so today's psychoeducation lesson will be this, right? We use social emotional learning because it's a standard that the state acknowledges as a component of learning. But it is learning about your emotions, learning about your interactions, learning about other people's emotions, right? Because that's a huge part of it, is perspective taking, how to make connections, how to get through conflict. Truly, I look at social emotional learning as life skills, right? They're not something that needs to be triaged. It's something that's universal, that all of us walking on earth will experience any of these pillars of social emotional situations.
How do you even build or deliver these lessons?
Yeah. So at PALCS, what we do is we have counselor lessons.
Okay.
Every school system, typically their counselors will go into the classroom and teach some type of curriculum, whether that's social emotional learning. It used to also be called character education.
Okay.
Because again, you're thinking about building your character. Do you understand what integrity means? Do you get to learn what procrastination means? All of these important pillars of also what makes you you. Identity. Who are you? What do you like about yourself, right? That's so important to build that connection and empowerment so that as you continue to navigate life, you always have that core place to come back to of like, who are you? Who are you at the root?
For me, the way I'm connecting to what you're saying is building and understanding self-identity through contrast to others.
Yeah.
Like just being able to see and identify, not necessarily be always holding a mirror to yourself.
Yes, absolutely. So I look at, especially at like the core ages, they're really starting to learn about themselves and understand what that even means. That it's awesome that you love trucks, right? And maybe your buddy over here has no interest in trucks at all, right? So understanding that everybody is different, but getting to own who you are, I think is a huge source of empowerment that you can carry as a strength for the rest of your life. So what we do at the elementary level is we have 2 lessons a month. And we have a social emotional component that's school-wide. So everyone has aligned social emotional learning.
All the grades.
All the grades. So whatever that core focus is for the month, that's what we're basing our lessons around. So this month is growth mindset. So then we will tailor lessons to match that to make sure we're aligning with standards. But also, again, we're honing in on the concept. Do they understand what growth mindset is? Well, we use a variety of curriculum. So some of it is like empirically studied curriculum. We use a mind up curriculum. It's mindfulness. It's awareness. So you're learning all of these cues of how to be mindful, right? That doesn't require meditation. Mm-hmm. It simply requires learning what awareness means and how to use your environment to help you sustain attention, to be present, to feel safe and comfortable in your body. And then we have specific lessons to hone in more on that social emotional concept.
So what does this look like for K through 2?
Yeah, so the kids come in twice a month and we meet with them. We'll usually start off with some type of mindfulness activity so they can start to be educated on what that means, why it matters, right? So like teaching the why is so important. You can go to school, you can do all the things, but if you don't understand why bother, right? Mm-hmm. So really teaching them why and how it's beneficial for them. And then we'll go into more of our specific content of what our lesson would be. Typically, it entails some type of story, video. Definitely we do an activity. So we'll send messages out to the families with everything that they'll need. We'll let them know their supplies that they need. And then we'll run our lesson. And then we also leave room for conversation. The kids love to talk to each other. Yeah. It's so fun when they get to like chat with each other. They get to share their different experiences based on our concept. And then, of course, they get time to just chat, right? They love to share things. So if the students are listening here, there's usually a show and share component because who doesn't love to share their favorite toy or their favorite animal with their buddy on the other side of the state. So it's also a really great way to connect outside of the classroom.
Okay, so I'm backing up a little bit because I'm so intrigued. What does a mindfulness exercise look like?
Yeah, so there is a wonderful website called The Mindful Teacher, and she creates visuals. So one of my favorite is called the Bubble Bounce, and it's all of these bubbles on the screen. And then the guide will tell the students, hey, follow the red bubble. So they've got to track with their eyes so that, again, when you're focusing on something, that allows you to be present and mindful. There'll be a fast one. There'll be a slow one. There'll be a colorful one. That's one example. That's one of my favorites that I like to use. The other one is the 5 senses. So we'll have the students sit and we'll say, hey, look at 5 things in your space. 4 things that you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. We'll let them share out with each other. again, that allows for that connection to share, like, this is what my space looks like. Oh, I taste Chex Mix because I just had a snack before we came in here, right? But it's letting them know, literally no matter where you go, you can use these tools. You don't have to be in front of your computer, right? You can be at the playground and use these tools.
That was my next question, which is, do you feel that what you're doing is completely different or modified because you're teaching virtually as opposed to if you were in a physical space with these kids?
No. So I've worked in brick and mortar schools. And yes, there's different types of connection where you're physically walking around the space, or maybe you're breaking them up into small groups. We can absolutely do breakout rooms, in the virtual setting. But for the most part, everything transfers over, right? Even in the form of books, we actually have more access to books because of YouTube. We've got lots of wonderful people who will read and imaginatively read these stories that it's actually a fun video for the kids to watch. So truly, everything transfers over.
Let's talk about the resources that you make available for parents and families. What is the role of parents, caregivers, learning coaches, is what we call them here at PALCS, in supporting the social emotional development and all the work that you're doing with the kids?
Yeah, I want to acknowledge that duality of roles, like you said. Parents who are here, they are parents first, but they are learning coaches. They are nurses. They are counselors, right? So parents who are doing this, it is phenomenal work. And it is a big ask, right? Like, you're at home with them. You are the primary person. So there's a lot of resources. And what I try to do is make sure that it's not overload, right? Because that can become really overwhelming to say, like, wow, there's like 20 websites I can go to. I'm probably not going to go to any because it's just too much. Just like for kids, you're just overloaded with information that naturally the body can sometimes go into that like fight, flight, or freeze shutdown where it's like, just no to all of it. So one of the things that I did last year and might do again is with every social emotional component of the month, I would make a little Canva presentation that was specific to elementary kids. And then I would give 3 resources. Here are some things you can do to expand upon this social emotional concept in really fun ways, right? So videos, coloring books, even best practices of like what kind of conversations to have with your kids. Speaking prompts, right? Sometimes we don't know what to say to our kids or how to approach those conversations. So really giving them like a toolbox for themselves as the parent to say, how do I engage with my kid in a really productive and connecting way?
I pick up my 4-year-old from daycare and I go, how was your day? And she'll say, good. And I'll say, what did you do? And she could have sat in a corner and stared at the wall the whole day for what she can recall and turn into conversation to talk to me about.
Yes. And then does she talk to you at another time about things?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Of
what
course,
time
like
of day?
when I'm
when you're ready for bed.
When I'm like, I just made my dinner and I'm trying to like decompress with my thoughts.
Yes. Yep. So when you think about it, again, it's completely normal and developmentally appropriate. When they come home from school, they need to re-regulate. And part of that is they need to decompress.
It's so obvious. And
I know, but we forget. And we're so eager as parents, right? We want to know, what'd you do? Who'd you talk to? Did you play with someone? Were you happy? Right? Like it becomes
like,
more for us.
Can I have a second? Can I unwind?
Yes. Think about for us, and everyone's different. Some people have that social battery where they could come home and they can keep going. I would argue that most people need a little bit of time to just decompress and transition from your work hat to now your parent hat. Same for the kids. They're students all day long. They need some time to be like, my body truly needs to re-regulate. And that's in the form of not talking, watching TV, going outside to play. And then I find it's usually around the 7 o'clock or even bedtime hour that you get the most information from your kid. And that can be frustrating because we're also tired and ready for bed.
Yeah.
But I always try and focus on, this is a very special time. So if my kid wants to talk to me at 8 o'clock at night, their brain's back online. They've got things they're recalling and they want to share. So when you're overloaded, overstimulated, tired, maybe you had a really bad day, right? Your body is imbalanced, and that usually means that other parts of your brain are taking over. And it doesn't mean that it's coming out in like major behavior ways. It's just like, we got to recharge. So when you hear your kids talking, I always remember like, oh, they're in their wise owl brain. Mm-hmm. So your wise owl is your prefrontal cortex. That's your thinking. That's your communication brain. That's why you start to hear all those like chit chats going on, mm-hmm. maybe after they've eaten, played, mm-hmm. quiet time. Mm-hmm. When it makes sense, I can regulate better.
Yeah.
Right? I can tolerate my own frustration to say, this developmentally is exactly what's supposed to happen. I, as the adult, have to manage my own emotions in response to this. And that's the hard work. But a great question that I read online somewhere, and I thought it was wonderful, because part of bedtime is too, you do want them to start relaxing and getting into that routine. So mm-hmm. like an hour conversation might bring all the stimulation back up. I like to ask my kids, what was the best part of your day today? Mm. So it's not like, let's go through the whole gamut, mm-hmm. but I want you to take the time to think about that.
Because they're still figuring out storytelling.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And you're like, where are we going with this story? When is it ending?
Also, tying your shoe was not the highlight. It might be. It
might be. You take it for what it is. Mine will usually say the highlight of their day was that they were sad all day. And I'm like, I don't know that we're understanding the question, but I'm so glad. And I hope that you're feeling better today.
Okay, yeah, I love that. So throughout the virtual school day for our students here at PALCS, are you ever, you're spending all of this time building these essential toolkits, and perhaps at grades K through 2, it's even just introducing them to having a box with maybe a hammer.
Yes.
Well, one might argue they're already coming in with a hammer. Are you ever coming in with the first aid triage kit?
Absolutely. Yes. So
what does that look like?
There's different levels of support. So the wonderful thing is that all students have access to their school counselors. We're a universal support. So it's like everybody's up for grabs. We're here, right? And we want to be here. So when you think about the universal approach, is like everyone's getting these opportunities for social emotional learning. They're getting access to that piece of school counseling. And then there's interventions, right? So there are students and families who may need specific paths, right? Based on whatever their needs are. So that first aid kit might look like meeting for individual counseling sessions or group counseling, even for the parents, right? So I always say to the parents, we are here for you just as much as we're here for them. So if there are parenting questions or concerns, or I don't know what to do with this issue, we're here for those first aid kit essential conversations as well.
Do you feel like it is just as much of a learning experience, let's say, for our learning coaches, our primary support
Yes.
adults?
100%. One of the essential conversations that I like to have when I'm talking to a new family is validating their experience, right? Yeah. So a theme, and again, parents, if you're listening out here, please like put this in your own toolbox. If you are a new family, it takes time to get used to anything new, right? So acclimating, the turnaround time, I will even tell parents, give yourself 6 weeks. Honestly, it's not in 2 days. It's going to take time to trial and error. What works 1 week might be like, this is a disaster now. Now we're back to the drawing board. But it's just like anything we do in life.
Yeah.
You have to build that muscle until it's in your body. And then your body knows how to do it. So your brain doesn't have to work hard to know like, oh, at 8 o'clock we're logging in and 10 o'clock we've got the virtual lesson. But it really takes time. So that's something I always like to tell new families is like, if you are feeling like you don't know your routine yet, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. This is the conversation I'm expecting to hear from you after week 3, right? Mm-hmm. I'd even expect you at week 4 to be like, I don't know how to put this all together. So we as school counselors and academic advisors will meet with families to create individualized schedules for them. We've got templates. so they can really hone in on what works best for them.
Yeah.
Another part of it too is because they're home with their child, they're with them all day, every day. Kind of going back to what I was saying about me as a school counselor, but also being a parent, it can become really easy to be laser focused and hyper vigilant to like all the things your kid is doing.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes you need that third party sounding board where you might call the counselor to ask, hey, I'm noticing these behaviors going on. Right. What do you think of this? We can offer intervention, but we can also validate to say like, this would be totally expected at this age. Or we might say, you know what, based on what I'm hearing, I'm wondering if we should maybe look at the following things, right? To get additional resources so your child has the best team possible to give you the information you need for your child.
Yeah, you're already just talking about, and let's just put a title on it, the one-on-one support. Is that by appointment only? Are there check-ins? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So families can request it. So I will always say to the students and to the parents, if you'd ever like to set up a time to talk with me, it doesn't have to be for the first aid kit. It can be because you're in your toolbox and you want to share that you learned how to score a goal in soccer or you moved up in gymnastics, right? It can be, there's the rainbow spectrum of it, of we don't always have to meet when we're in need. We can meet before that to learn how to make connections with other safe people in the world, how to communicate with them. But yes, they can request individual. Sometimes we will reach out to families to say, hey, I wanted to check in, see how things are going. Would check-ins be helpful for a variety of reasons, right? Making sure we're feeling motivated to get our schoolwork done. That duality role that parents have, sometimes it can really get in the way of the parent-child relationship. So I will typically offer to say, if you two are hitting a point where it's really causing a lot of conflict, let the professionals step in terms of, hey, we can tell Johnny, that's your teacher who's telling you need to do these things, right? Because it can create that like bad guy mentality, right? So we'll sometimes step in as a wedge to say, what if we took some of that pressure off of your relationship so you can keep the core of your connection and let us come in and talk to your child about what needs to be done at school, or, hey, we're not doing our schoolwork. How can we get them back on track?
I love that. I love that it just feels like there's a lot of, like a village of support kind of surrounding every student and family.
Yes. I always think of the words availability and team, right? So knowing what's available to you is really important, because when you get to that overwhelmed place, again, you're in the first aid kit spot. So your cognitions aren't actively looking at, all right, let me research and find these things. So we want to make sure that they know what's available to them and that teams are essential, right? So like your child, you as the parent, you deserve to have a village, right? Like we are not meant to do this alone. School, outside of school.
Right.
Right. And yes, are we at the core? But sometimes there's people that are better at having these conversations, or it's too heavy or it's too challenging. You bring someone in so you can have these conversations together, right? And as parents, we're always learning and growing at the same time as the kids.
And not necessarily, like, just to reiterate what you have already said, not leaning on your village when you are feeling stressed out and in dire need, but letting the village naturally play its role.
Yes. Letting it exist, right? So when you think about, if your child goes to daycare, right? It's like, well, I'm so glad that my child is a teacher who's teaching them the things, right? Are you always going to be the teacher for them, right? Probably not. But you're going to be the reinforcer. You're going to back up the teacher. But what a blessing it is to know that there's someone who has a skill set to give this to your child.
Big time.
Right? That's the way I look at it. It's like, how wonderful that I have these resources and these people that I trust and like to influence and support my child in their development.
Should movies ever have sequels or just stop at one?
Ooh, always a sequel.
Always, you're down for a sequel.
I love a sequel. I get very attached to like a good show or the characters. So if there's an opportunity to meet them again, I really value that.
Are tacos better soft or crunchy?
I love crunchy.
Is soup a meal or just a starter?
I feel like it's a starter.
Okay.
I need a little more.
Is cereal a soup?
No.
Why?
It's a good question because soup can be cold as well. So you
Right.
can't really argue that. I feel like cereal is just its own category. It's
Okay.
like one of my questions that I ask students is a hot dog a sandwich
Is it?
or is it just a hot dog?
Is it?
I feel like it's still just a hot dog.
Okay.
Like I feel like it just exists as its own.
Okay.
I know.
So, that's
These
fine.
are hard questions.
Is cake better than pie?
No.
Ooh, what flavor?
So I'm not a huge cake person. It has to be ice cream cake, which again, that's not qualifying for this one. But I don't really like cake. A good pie, like pumpkin pie, apple, carrot, pecan. Like I would definitely choose pie over cake.
Which is cuter, puppies or kittens?
Oh, puppies.
Yeah. Do you have one?
I don't.
Okay.
I used to.
Okay. What kind?
He was like a corgi mix.
Oh, no way!
He was the sweetest thing. If there's anyone who knows me and is actually listening to this, they loved my dog like their own. Like the teacher, one of the teachers at my kid's school, when I would do kindergarten drop off for my son, I would bring him in the car. And this teacher loved my dog, Joe. Just like stop the car line.
First
to
of all,
kiss
Joe is a
him.
great name for...
Joe was just, he was a very special person. And so I gave her like a framed picture of him at the end of the year. And she has had it forever. She's always asked my kids how Joe's doing. So I do have exciting news for parents and students. A really fun initiative this year. So we have 2 lessons a month, K-2, 3-5. Every time you attend a lesson, you will be entered into a raffle to win a $10 Five Below gift card.
Yay.
Just for attending, being a part of it, connecting with your classmates. So we're really hoping to have our students come out to engage and learn, and then maybe get a little treat.
I love
Go
that.
shopping at Five Below.